Oh, hello again, and welcome to another tutorial and the camera and lens repair. And this time I will try to explain how to actually re-lube a stiff focus assembly in my Carl Zeiss for Contax Yashica. It's a 50mm 1.7. So let's have a look at that nice lens. This is what we have here. I already been into it, but the focusing ring is a bit stiff. One way. The other way it goes a bit, it comes on and on. So maybe the focus helicals in there are a bit dry. So let's have a look inside. But we need some tools. We need the famous rubber cones here from Japan Hobby Tool, which is good. One just fall on the floor, but happen. We need some screwdrivers. This is crosshead screwdrivers, JIS, from Moody Tools. And this is a part of a set of 4 that goes from 2 to 4mm, and you can get them on ifixit.com. And then we need some dentist tool, can be very handy, and also a good tweezer, or maybe another one a little bigger. And then we need a measurement tool. This is a adjustable, I think it's called an adjustable caliper, or something like that, but it's really good and very good for working with lenses. We also need some brush. This is makeup brushes from the shops, the supermarket or something. Nothing really special. And of course we need some grease. This is a grade 10, which is a very fine, very soft, which is very good for lenses like this one here. It's a grade 10 from Japan Hobby Tool. So so let's jump into it. We actually begin with the back, the mount here, not the mount itself with the 3 screws here. It's not necessary to take off. We only need to take off unscrew the 4 screws here on the back, and then we are almost in the lens. There's one thing to mention. Set it to something like 16. It should be good. And there is a little spring somewhere inside here, where the little steel ball and the little tiny spring is. It makes the click when moving the aperture ring. So take care of that. So we just go on. It's good with a magnetized screwdriver. And forget to take out this screw closest to the red dot. Take out last. So this one here. And then have a little pressure on here. Press it together when you unscrew the little tiny screw. Oh, so. And then we can actually take off the mount. Take care of the little steel ball in here, and lift out the mount so it looks like that. The spring here is attached to the pin that goes outside the camera, so it looks like that. Remember that. So fine, and then we have the next part that comes out is the dented ring here. It has a pin here on the side, this pin here. It goes into the notch here and can only sit in one position. It makes the click for the aperture ring. And then the tiny steel ball here, take care of that. No, don't loosen it. And there's of course also a tiny spring. And then we can take out the aperture ring without any problem. So and now we are facing the back of the lens with the aperture pin here. This would actually make the, if I set it to close the aperture, this one will make the close of the aperture assembly. But we could just set it wherever it is. Now we need to go further into the lens. So one can take off the rubber grip here, and so we are away with that. And now there are 3 screws around here, one there, there and there. But we need to take off the front here, the name ring, which comes off itself only, and simply unscrew it. It can maybe sit tight, it depends on, but since it's plastic, it shouldn't stay, I mean, be that tight, but it can be a little annoying to take out. They haven't used any thread lock here. Sometimes the lens with a metal front nameplate, they use thread locks. Now we have to take good care of here when the before taking out the lens assembly and the focus ring, and of course also the front ring here, the front barrel. So before going any further, set a scratch here on the front lens assembly ring, and also on the lens barrel inside here, so you know where this should sit. And then we can take that out. With the 3 screws. Maybe it's better to use a bigger screwdriver. Sometimes it is. Off with that. So. And now this ring can come off. There's nothing special about it. Just keep in mind where the screws actually is sitting. So the top screw is sit in line with the index mark, and the next screw for that sitting on around 4 o'clock, and the third one is sitting around 8 o'clock. I mean in the position. So the front lens and the lens assembly actually that contain the aperture assembly also sit with 3 screws here, there, there and there. And before take out that, it is necessary to set a some marks here one have to set, oh, okay, we have some focus here or there. Set a mark here on the edge of the front lens group, and also on this plastic. The edge of the plastic here, that is the lens assembly housing, and which is very important, it is set a mark here on the outside, I mean on the edge of the aluminium. It prevents from, when setting those marks, it will prevent you from doing any adjustment, because when it sits there, you know where the correct aperture is, in my opinion, and it works. So now we take off the 3 screws here. And take care, because the whole front lens will just pop out if you turn it over. It will not yet. Yeah, it will, because I loosened 1 screw. So just check that. So now I can take out the front lens group and the inner part, I mean the lens assembly block. So you see it can come loose by lifting it up. Don't be worried about that. I work with tools close to lens element. I haven't yet scratched a lens element. Well, so now we are actually here and can take out the inner lens aperture assembly housing by turn it over. But we have to do some things on the back here, because it will make it easier to take out the lens assembly here. So if it's the aperture focus over here, it's not very easy. It has to sit over there as long as possible, because then it will be easy to take out the assembly here. So this grinding or milling is where this pin is sitting, and this part here, I don't know what the name is, has to go in here, and of course the fork here has to go to the long milling area. So when putting it back in again, just need to have it like this and simply get the fork in first, and last will be the pin here, so you can see where it sits. So now that's in place. Out with that. You will not need that now. And now we are coming to the actual point with this video, because we need to do some marks here just to be sure where things sit before taking it apart. There is a C-shape ring here inside the focusing ring that actually hold the focusing ring itself into the inner, to the brass helicals. So by setting a mark here on the top side of the C-shaped ring, and also on the inside of the plastic focusing ring, so you know where it should sit when it's correct. So now we are ready to take off the 3 screws around here, and we can actually unscrew it fully. They are not that long, so I thought of course I've been into the lens before just to do all the marks and investigation, but it's not possible to, because the screws are very short here in the focusing ring. So we need to unscrew it fully. I thought it could stay in there without taking the screws out, but so it is. Maybe we can let one sit. Let's see. Out with that. And then unscrew it, loosen it. No, it's not possible. You have to fully unscrew it. Oh, maybe, yeah, it can. It's just the one tiny thread is holding it. But now we know where it is. So now we are actually in the helical, the focusing block here. And one thing to mention, there is a stop here on the each side of the to near end and to the infinity. So when those one of those end stop here will go to, let's see where it goes. It will go to from here all the way over to here, where the lens made in Japan is. So it's actually half a turn, or 180 degree. Now we need to set some marks here. That's important, because I haven't found any repair manual for this lens. So I need to make my own marks where the helicals get off the thread, both for the inner helical here, the brass ring, which have a thread here on both sides, but it goes into the outer, it will say, with the ring where the index mark ring is. So therefore we need to have a reference point, which will be the index mark. So set a scratch here. I already done it, and set a just to make it easier for you, set an infinity mark, so you know where this ring actually should sit when it's done. And of course with the name, with the inner ring, do the same. So they are all three in line with the two of them are in line with the index mark. So that's important. And before we actually taking this helical system apart, I will measure it, and I already have measured, so I know how long is the full length from here, from front to back, and from the brass ring to back. So let's measure it. It's something like, I should end up with something like 23.6560. So, and if I look at my paper here, my notes, it's the same. So, and we also measure the brass ring to the very back here and do the same. And it should be something like 20.46 millimeter, which is also the same I have here. So I have two reference points, my marks here and my measured distance. So that's important. can just let it stay there. Now, before taking the, disassemble the helicals, we need to do some more scratch. Because there are two guide pins here, one with a notch between, it acts as a spring kind of, and the other one there's nothing, it's just rigid. So I set a scratch a 1 digit here. Oh, you possibly can see, difficult. So 1 scratch here and 1 scratch inside, so I know it, and 1 scratch on the pin also. So that's good to know. And on the other pin I didn't do anything, so because then I can actually just take it out and the helicals will be free to move. Take care of that. They have used some kind of, not really thread lock, but it's more a kind of a, where did that screw went? So now the this guide pin comes out. So, and we will just take the other one. Maybe it's better with a smaller screwdriver here. And get that off. And the last screw. So. And the guide pin will also be taken out. So. And now we actually facing a naked focus system, because there's no, everything can be moved. So I know, because I've been into the lens before, that there should be, when taking out the, that's why I made my notes here, so you probably will get the information about it. The inner helical will have to turn almost 1 turn till off, then set a mark. And then I have done that before. It will say my reference mark here is in line with the index mark. Oh, there. And I also, when I have turned the inner helical 1 or almost 1 turn clockwise, seeing from the front, until a mark I have set here, because it's very close to the index mark. So I can just turn it and keep 2 fingers on the brass ring so it will not move. And then I can turn the inner helical until I can see my mark here, and it has to stay, has to be in line with the other mark here, and then the focusing helical will come off. So that's it, that's part of it. The next one is the brass helical ring that needs to turn almost 5.5 turn till off, and it will be counterclockwise. So my reference mark here is 1 there, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And of course I know where this helical will come off, it will come off really close to the lens made in Japan. It will say, if we have compared to a watch clock, it will be something like not 8 o'clock but 7 o'clock. So let's see if it's right. The mark is here, and it will be half turn, and then it comes off. So that's it. Take good care to set the marks where the helicals come off, because it's your only reference to actually put the lens back in together. And now it's time to clean the focusing helicals with lighter fluid. See you soon. And now I have just cleaned the focus helicals with lighter fluid. I did it outside because the lighter fluid stinks a bit, so it's not really good to do it inside. So it will be difficult to have the camera with outside, but you will see. I mean, you simply drop it in a small container and let it stay there for, well, maybe 5 minutes, and use the brush to actually clean the helicals. So, but now it's time to add the new lube here, and it will be the grade 10. So let's see how good it will be. You not really need a much amount of this stuff, because it's a fine thread. So by adding a little, do not have to be much. A little will do a lot. And maybe someone would say, oh, that's too much or too less. Well, it depends on which lens you are in. Some need more, some need less. But of course there's no idea to add too much. I mean, in the factory they add more than I do here. From some of those lenses I have seen inside, there's a lot of grease, and that's why it's over time will search and end up into the aperture assembly. So let's see how it will go with the inner. Where can I put this? Okay, my index mark, that's the main thing, and actually the point where the brass helical comes off. And you will see I didn't add any on this ring, because when I screw it in, the mark that comes when I took the lens apart, I mean the helical apart, and this mark where the where this ring comes off has to be put together, and click, then turn it almost half a turn up to the index mark, and from there is 5 turns clockwise. The half a turn was, I mean the almost half a turn was from down here at 7 o'clock. So I need to turn it 5 turns. It will say 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I am home at 5. And one can just move it. Good. And that's it. So this is perfect. So I continue with the next helicoil. It will be this one here, and I can just add it at the aluminium. Oh, that was way too much. We'll spread it all over the helicoils, and I only lube it in the half in. There's no need to lube the whole section here of this thread, because it will spread when you move it into the helicoil. And then wipe away the rest of it if there's too much. Maybe it's a bit too much, but we will just take the rest of it away. Doesn't need that much, but of course they have to actually be two helicoils that need the loop. So now I have to find the point where the inner helicoil comes off, and it's here, close to the index mark, at around, say, 10 or 11 or something in between. And my mark here on the helicoil, inner helicoil. So it just have to say click, and a kind of, it will say there. Can be sometimes be a little tricky to put on, but you will know where it goes correct. So after some attempts, it will go. No. Don't press too much. Just let the thread do the work. It has to go in there. It had sit there before. So by try and error. Come on, little thread. Can be pretty annoying. But I think we'll make it. That was strange. That was weird. Okay, sometimes it's better to go all the way up to here. Says click. Come on. Yes, there. So you can see it can't, if you move it a little back and then try to move it up to the point here, and then when it says click, you are on the right thread. So now it's there, and it's really, really great, soft. Wow, that will be good. So now we are done with that and can continue with the guide pins. And I will just take the rigid first, loading my screwdriver with a screw. Sometimes it's good to have two screwdrivers when working with this kind of stuff, because then you have, it will be easier to add the screws in here. So now add the guide pin here with no number on. It will say the number 2, and it has to sit there. It can only sit there. So, oh, we miss one point, which is also important, is to actually add a little lube on the side here of those guide pins. That would just be a tiny amount. So and then it's fine, and then I can add it in here. Where did it went? So, and then put in the screws. Well, I could add some thread lock, but I mean, one can also add some nail polish here on the, just a tiny drop. It will prevent the screws from loosening. So, and I will not tighten it yet, because I also need to put in the other one. So again, load your screwdrivers with a screw. So, and now I need to also give this guide pin a little loop. So there it is. So that's fine. And then I can add it, since I have my one digit here, I have my one digit here, and so I know exactly where things should sit, and why it is so important when you take lenses apart, where should things sit when they sit correct. So add the screw in here. Oh, have to push it up here. So, and the other screw. And then we are almost done with this part of it. And then we just need to see how good it is before I tighten the screws. It's really, really good. Wow, just like brand new. Then I can tighten the screws. And so it's fine. Don't unscrew the helicoid too much, because if it pops off, you have to take out the two guide pins and get the helicoids, especially the inner helicoid, into correct place again. And then, if so, it's easier to take off the guide pins. So now everything is in place, and my two marks here, all three, is correct. So, is it correct? Just to check if the we don't need those anymore. It's good to have notes. So will the full helicoid here, from the very front of the inner helicoid to the very back of the outer helicoid, will it be 23.65? Yeah, of course it is. So it's good, I'm back on track. What about the other one? Have I got the correct thread? Well, it's actually fine. So it's also white. So it's a bit depending on how you hold this. So everything is correct. That's fine. So now I can add the focusing ring itself. And where did it go? Here. Be sure it's on infinity here, because then I can add the focusing ring with a C-shaped ring, and maybe it's possible to put it on without unscrew the last screw here. It could be, but if so, if you actually took off the C-shaped ring, one have to set it in correct again, and again it can only sit one way. It will say, you see the well the shape of the of this ring. There is a wider one here, a wider part of this ring, and a smaller part of the ring here. But since I in the very beginning set a mark here, it will not be a problem for me, because I know where it should sit. And again, I have the same mark in here at the focusing ring, so I know exactly where this should sit. And again, it cannot sit the opposite direction, because then you cannot put it on. So it makes sense. So where did my mark go? Where is the stop? The two stops, where did it go? Here. There are the two stops. So I will simply put this on again. Hopefully this ring will sit in here. You see, you can put it in here and let it stay there. And then you can add the focusing ring itself. One screw hole there, one screw hole there. And just load my screwdriver with a screw. And another one. So we are more ready to put the ring on here. So it will be something like that. And put it on. The infinity mark here. And then keep the ring, keep the focusing ring there. Then you can move the C-shaped ring just a little, at the same time as you press here on the side of the focusing ring, because it will prevent the brass ring from moving. And if so, I will tell you in a short time. Just have the hole in here, and then I can add my screw, hopefully. So it's there. And then the next screw, it can be sometimes a problem, but you need to push on the side of the C-shaped ring to get the screw into the hole. And then the last screw. Where did it go? Here. And then we are home again. So now it's actually working perfect. If you want to adjust the focusing helical into correct infinity, if it's not, you only want to loose the 3 screws, not unscrew. And if you look down here, we need another tool, pointy tool. There is a bore here, not a hole. It looks like that. But if you want to adjust the focus infinity, you can loose the loosen the screws here. So, but not take out the screws, of course. And holding the lens up to infinity, and then simply move the ring here by simply moving gently until it fits infinity. It's not the point here because I will probably use it with a Nikon. I will try actually to put a Nikon mount directly on it instead of the and use it on my camera, Nikon camera. But then I need to adjust the infinity to fit on my Nikon camera. Well, it will be a sooner project. We'll just need to check how good it will be. So one can just tighten the screws on the focusing ring, and then it's fine. Wow, it's really good. So that was actually that part, and then I can simply add the lens assembly, aperture assembly, whatever name it has, and put that in. So load a screwdriver with screws. Oh. And to put it in, it's easier to set the fork all the way as so it will be as open aperture as possible. It will say if it's over here it's closed, so I can actually close I mean not all the way but almost. So then I can close it, but I need to set it up to here so it's fully open. Oh, it turned over. It's not a problem, we just put it back on here and then we are fine. So now it has to end it up here, so not over, but just as long as it can, because then it will be easier to put in the assembly here. So I will put the fork in here, the other side over here, and then the focus, the aperture pin here, and then we are actually there. Now turn it over and align it. Find your index mark here, and the mark I set in the beginning has to stay in line, sit in line with the very fine mark I set here on the edge of the aluminium helical. So now I know where the aperture will fit perfect, and that's good. So holding it here and then add the front lens group, put it in, and also this mark has to sit in line with the other, so everything is perfect. So now I can screw in the 3 screws. So, and then the last screw. And everything is almost done here. Then I can add the front barrel. And since I also have a mark here, I know where it should sit. So, there. And then add 3 screws. And the last screw. And then come the more tricky part to actually put the back on again. And well, set it to near end. So there. Maybe someone has to do a little adjustment here of those guide pins. Sometimes it can be a problem, because if they are a bit tight, one can just loosen it a bit. And now it's perfect. So set the lens to infinity and put the put this one to actually fully closed. I mean, the aperture has to be fully closed. It will say all the way over here. You see the curve here, down here. This aperture thing has to sit there, because if I move, you can see it will fully close the aperture. Now, then we need to put in the aperture ring itself. But before that, I will just add a tiny amount of grease on the edge. Oh, a little too much, maybe. So, and simply add this in. And since we are here, we can also add a little, so it works pretty good. We can also add a little amount of grease onto the little hole here for the aperture spring. So one can also add a little on the click ring. I don't know the name of this ring, but just a tiny amount. So it is. that's all for the grease. So now put in the tiny spring here. So, and before we continue, just load a screwdriver with a screw, because then it will be a lot easier to when assemble it. Now the tiny spring, the tiny steel ball goes on here, and hopefully it will stay there. Now add the click ring. This pin here goes into the notch here. Simply put it on. So there, and then put the plate. Oh, of course, my little steel ball went out of place. Do you mind, little steel ball? So, and it sits there on with this ring. So, and we are fine for that. Now it's time to put the actual aperture ring on. And there is a good thing I was thinking about when I make this. Maybe it's a good idea to actually push down this with a fine pointed tweezer. Simply press down here on this click ring, so you know where the ring is, and of course the steel ball and the spring. And then I can add this ring here. This pin here has to push against the pin here. That the other pin has to go to the long gap here. So let's see how it will go. So then add this, then take out the, oh gosh, this bloody ring here moves. Okay, we open it again. What's happened here? So maybe it's not a good idea, maybe, well, just try it. So there, just to have a better grip on it. Try it again. What's happened here? It will move. Okay, yeah. So then put it on, and then we're there. So is the click still there? Yes, it's fine. Put the screw in first that is closest to the spring. It will say the red dot. And then screw it in, and whew, we are fine. And almost safe home. So the only thing I need to do is actually put the name ring on, and then we are done. Of course the rubber ring too. And then I have a fully great working focus on this lens without any problem. That's really good. So there, put it good in here, and then the nameplate, find the correct thread, and then tighten it gently. So that was actually all for me this time. So now you know exactly how this lens will be when you re-lube it. So now it's ready to come out and take some photos. So that's all. Hope you enjoy the content, and there will be more videos about whatever, lens, camera. See you!